guys, welcome back to the bench. Today, RC ModLife, we have this old project I've had kicking around for probably 10 years now. It's my old T-Maxx. It was a nitro truck, standard chassis, all that stuff. So we went ahead and we did an extended chassis on it and extended A-arms and bigger wheels and tires and all kinds of stuff, and we semi-converted it to an electric truck now with a homemade motor mount. But last time I ran it, it blew out the rear differential. So I've blown the rear differential on this truck probably 3 or 4 times maybe. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a spool in the rear so we can go ahead and just dig in and do stand climbing and hill climbing and mud bogging and pretty much whatever we want to do with it. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to remove the rear section with the differential in it and everything. So we got 4 screws on top of the chassis here that we're going to go ahead and remove, and it should allow us to pull the whole back side of the truck off. So it should make it pretty simple to get it apart. So let's go ahead and get these screws out of here. And one thing I like about this thing is I can stand it pretty much up on the rear bumper. You can see we have all kinds of aluminum upgrades done to it, you know, so it's a pretty stout truck. So go ahead and get these screws out of here. And we'll get the rear diff off it. We don't want to lose anything. Screw the last screw, and we should be able to remove the rear differential. So, yep, there we go. So we'll set this aside for right now, and we'll go ahead and work on this. Oh, there's another screw. So what we need to do is we need to get this piece out of this whole contraption here. Alright guys, so we went ahead and we removed the rear bumper from this rear differential section. So we went ahead and removed that. We'll set that to the side for later. We went ahead and removed the 4 screws that hold the shock tower to the differential bulkheads. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and just pull this apart right now. We'll get the part out that we need, as you can see. Pretty simple, comes out of there. And we'll set the differential bulkheads to the side for right now. So this is the little beauty we're looking for. So inside here is your differential. This allows one tire to spin when the other one's spinning in the turn. The problem is we have a bunch of ground up gears inside this thing, so that's why we're going to go ahead and put the spool in it. So first thing we need to do here is there's a little Allen bolt at the front drive shaft. So we're going to go ahead and remove that front bolt for the drive shaft in the front here. Go ahead and get that out of our way. And it'll be a pin through, so it allows the drive shaft to come off. So as you can see, if we put that in there, it's just a pin that goes right through. So we'll go ahead and set that to the side. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this piece right here, which is just a plastic piece that kind of turns, wiggles, and then we remove it. Okay, so the dog bone cups on the side, they have 4 Allen headed grub screws. So you need to remove all 4 of them for these little dog bone cups to come off. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and loosen those. And loosen the second one. And the cup comes off. Pretty simple. We'll just set that to the side for right now. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So we'll loosen it. loosen this one. And once again, it just slides off pretty simple. Pretty easy so far. So we got our little differential sitting right here. What holds it together is these two screws right here. So we'll go ahead and remove those. Now, as you take this thing apart, sometimes it'll be a little tight coming apart. There we go. Now what you want to do is when you take it apart, you want to make sure that you remember what the orientation of the ring gear is. So go ahead and pull ours out. There we go. And we're just going to set it inside the case for right now, pretty much the same way it came off, which would be just like that, just for right now. So got a bunch of dirt and grease and stuff in here, so we'll go ahead and clean that out of there. Get us a rag here. Alright, so you can see there's a bunch of dirt and grease and grime and stuff up in there. So we'll go ahead and pull the pinion gear out. Just set that to the side for a second. And we'll just go ahead and we'll just clean this old gunky junk out of here. We don't want no dirty grease or anything in there when we go to put it back together. So, alright, so we'll set that to the side. Now what we are going to need is our ring gear here. So what we're going to have to do is pull the bearing off this one side. Sometimes you might need a little screwdriver or something just to kind of get her off there. Which, of course, it's going to fight you a little bit every once in a while, but no big deal. We got it. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that in our caps there. And we got a little bit of dirt and grease in here also, so we'll go ahead and clean that out of there. So you can see our bearings are still in our caps. So no problem. Exactly how it should be. Now, what we need to do is get this ring gear off the differential. So we'll go ahead, and there's 4 little screws on the back. We'll go ahead and remove those 4 screws. And that should release our ring gear from the differential. And like I said, this is a pretty simple project so far. A couple little screwdrivers and Allen keys. Anybody can pretty much do it. Not real difficult. Alright. So we'll go ahead and set that thing to the side because we're not going to be reusing that. That thing is junk, as they say. And we need to pull, well, you know what, let's just go ahead and remove these screws so we don't lose them. There we go. Now what we need to do is we're going to need to remove this spider gear right here because we are not going to be using that. So alright. So now what we need to do here is I like to clean everything up a little bit before we go ahead and put everything back together. It just makes it nicer, and you know, you get all your dirt and grease and grime over the years that you've had in there. You can get rid of that. So put everything back together nice and clean. So that's our ring gear. That's what we're going to be reusing. So we're going to reuse the ring gear, and we're going to be reusing our pinion gear. Not pinion gear, I'm sorry. Alright, so next, we got this Traxxas spool right here. And this is the piece we're going to be putting in. So real simple. You know, it's not a lot to it. It's just literally going to turn both wheels in the back all the time. So it should help us out quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stick our ring gear on our spool right here. Just like so. So our spool and our ring gear will set like this. We'll line up the holes. And I like to kind of just set it in this cover for a second just to, oh, of course it's not going to work. I'll just set it on the bench there. So we got 4 new screws with the spool, our little ones. So if you had any stripped ones or just old tired screws, we'll get rid of them. So we'll go ahead and we'll line this up and we'll put our 4 screws back in. They are small, so they're kind of hard to get a hold of sometimes, but we'll go ahead and get these things put in there. So still not too difficult, still a pretty simple process. So go ahead and get those 4 screws put in, and then it'll be time to reassemble the differential. Alright, last screw. It always helps if you have a set of small screwdrivers, especially for these little jobs right here. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our differential, or a spool should I say, and we're going to insert it back into the case. So that will go in there, no problem, nice and free. We'll go ahead and set our other gear in there. And it'll look just like that when you have it in. So this is why it's super important to pay attention how it comes apart. So our other case with our bearing right on the top here. And put it together just like that. So, pretty simple to put it all in. We're going to put our 2 screws back in here. And they don't have to be Superman tight, just pretty much in there. There we go. That's about it. So, just make sure she turns. Oh yeah, it turns nice and smooth. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our differential cups back on. So slide those back on there. Tighten up our screws here. Make these good and tight so they don't come off. They're not going to go anywhere if they come. You're going to have one wheel drive in the back if they come loose. So we don't want that to happen. So we'll go ahead and we'll tighten up our grub screws real good. All right, one more of those. And all right, there we go. So you can see we got our dog bone cups back on. Differential spins nice and smooth. All right, so next thing we're going to do now is we're going to stick this piece on there. This has to go on first. And this will actually center the differential back in the truck. So you'll see it'll turn back and forth just a little bit, make it easier. We'll go ahead and get our front dog bone cup and dog bone. It's like a CV joint type deal. And we'll go ahead and stick that back on the front right here. And as we stick it on there, this pin will go through and hold our dog bone in. Might have to play with it just a little bit at first to get it to go through. But all in all, still pretty simple. Alright. That's pretty much how you change the differential to a spool. Pretty simple. Didn't take us very many time and very little tools. So you can see everything is working well, and you see both cups are turning at the same speed. Now I could hold one and it's not going to turn. So all the time this drive shaft is turning, these dog bone cups will be turning at the same speed. So the rear wheels are always going to be driving. No more spider gears. So what we have to do now is move these little screws out of the way. Set up to the side. What we'll do is wind up putting our differential back in our differential housing, and we'll go from there. All right. So now we got our differential back in the bulkheads. You can see we got the aluminum bulkheads in it, and our whole deal is spinning nice and freely, no problems. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put our shocks back on, which should be pretty simple. A couple of screws. Just like that. Same on the other side. No, y'all can't see it very good. There we go. Just like that. No problems. So that's pretty much what we're going to wind up with. So now, what we need to do is put our rear bumper back on, which will just a few screws in here. And that'll pretty much tie the bulkheads together. We'll go ahead and line that all up. Get our screws here. And it's always easier to hand start all the screws here before we start tightening them down. It always just allows just a little bit of movement in the bulkhead, and it just allows it just to be a little bit easier for us to get her done. Excuse me. All right, now we got all our 4 screws in. We'll go ahead and tighten those down. Okay, as you can see, it ties the whole section together. So the shock towers tie the top of the bulkhead together, and the rear bumper skid plate ties the bottom of the bulkheads together. So pretty simple deal. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our whole rear differential back in our truck. Slide these tires out of the way for a second. Alright, and that's pretty much it. Once we get this back in there, get the tires back on it, we'll be ready for a test drive. Alright, that's pretty much it, guys. So, no more strip differentials. Back to full wheel drive. Smack our body back on there. Just like that. And voila. We'll go ahead and call this project a wrap. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time at the bench on RC ModLife.